Here.
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 Here. Here.
Thank you.
Here.
Here. Mr. Paulson, would you lead us in the pledge? Dr. Schuler, would you introduce Dr. Craig?
I'd be happy
Principal
to.
of Washington.
Dr. Jennifer Craig, Principal of Washington School, is going to give our welcome. I know she's going to say it in a few minutes, but I feel terrible. We had some students that I know Dr. Craig had ready to come and do a little presentation. We told them a little earlier in the day not to come out tonight with kind of the unknown in the weather, but nonetheless, I'm still happy to introduce Dr. Craig, proud principal here at Washington.
Thank you. Good evening, board. It's a privilege to welcome you and senior leadership team to Washington School. I'm glad the snow did not stop my opportunity to talk about this school that I love so much. I'm in my 12th year as principal here, and I feel fortunate to do this very important work with an incredible community of people. I'm sorry that the weather prevented you from seeing more of our Washington community tonight, but I will enjoy giving you a brief highlight of the work that happens here for our students. Washington has a very active PTA. They organize a number of community building events that have become Washington traditions, like the Ice Cream Social, Pancake Breakfast, and Washapalooza. They come into classrooms for holiday parties and to teach art enrichment lessons. And they raise a generous amount of money to enhance the school experience for students, such as funding field trips to places like Cosley Zoo, Napier Settlement, and Morton Arboretum. Our PTA also provides some funding to Washington clubs so that teachers can buy materials to support all of the club activities that I will talk about in a few minutes. Last year, on top of the usual funding from PTA, they also gifted about $3,500 in books for our LLC. This year, they purchased our PE department a portable Gaga ball pit, and I believe that's on the agenda to have that gift accepted tonight. We've already started enjoying it in the gym and look forward to taking it outside this spring. We're extremely thankful for our Washington PTA partners. I would also like to take a few minutes to talk about the incredible staff at Washington. This morning, popping into Google Meet's classrooms during e-learning was a great reminder of how patient, dedicated, and innovative our teachers are. It was also great to see specialists and teaching assistants participating in e-learning sessions with students too. Every day, there are so many examples of the talents and dedication our staff members possess, and I want to take this time to publicly thank them for the work they do. I'm very proud that their commitment to supporting student growth has resulted in Washington receiving the summative designation of exemplary from the state of Illinois for 2 years in a row. Our teachers and support staff worked hard to accelerate learning and help students close the learning gaps in the years following COVID. And they did all that while also implementing 2 new curricula in math and literacy and establishing new collaborative co-teaching relationships. Thank you, exemplary Washington staff. Sorry more of you could not be here tonight, but I'm truly proud of you every single day. Helping our students feel connected to school is one factor that has contributed to the high levels of academic growth we've seen in recent years. Kids who are connected and comfortable in school are ready to learn and are engaged students. Staff certainly connect with students in the classroom every day, but extracurriculars have also provided those opportunities. All of the elementary schools in District 200 have had strong extracurricular music programs for years. At Washington, our band, orchestra, and chorus are thriving programs led by the talented Mike Kloss, Jill Thackeray, and Jane Syme. We've also participated in the Wheaton Library Battle of the Books program for many years. Our battle team is supported by our PTA and is led this year by parent Sarah Henry and teacher Debbie Willems. What I plan to highlight for you tonight are the clubs that we've been able to have at Washington thanks to your decision to support clubs at the elementary level beginning in 2021. These clubs have enabled our teachers to share their interests and talents with students in a different way and have given our students new opportunities to connect with staff and peers. I was planning on having 16 of our amazing students join me tonight to talk about their club experience until Mother Nature had a different idea. I had a wonderful time working with these students and loved hearing them talk about the work they do in their clubs with such pride and about their teacher leaders with such appreciation. I decided not to use their exact words tonight, and we're going to create a video that we can share out with you. I'll just share a short description of each club, and then you can look forward to viewing that video. So Student Council is a long-standing Wheaton club, Washington club. Teachers were working with students on Student Council for many years on a volunteer basis before the club stipends became available. This club coordinates our Make a Difference Day service project, leads our Veterans Day Assembly, and promotes school events. They're led by teachers Kim Dillon, Kara Swatulski, and David Oreda. Our art teacher, Denise Roach, runs an art club for fifth graders to give them a chance to explore a variety of art materials and do more advanced art projects. The students who are going to present, we're going to wear the t-shirts they've designed and show you the canvases they've painted. This club is so large, it is split between two different groups. Teachers Kim Dillon and Lauren Runick have done an after-school running club for many years. At first, it was on a voluntary basis. That club is now Kids in Motion. It's a 4th and 5th grade club that meets in the spring, and they train together to run the Cosley Zoo 5K. Our largest club is our drama club. That's also a club that started from a suggestion made by a student 3 years ago. This group of 4th and 5th graders split into cast and crew and work all year on a play that they'll perform for their classmates and parents in the spring. Last year was Alice in Wonderland, and we are looking forward to Peter Pan this spring. Lauren Runick and Kara Swatulski run this club, and the Student Excellence Foundation has supported us with 2 grants so that we can create sets and props. Our newest club is our crochet club. It was started last year by Beth Hagemeyer, and our math coach Carrie Mansour helps out as well. The students who are going to present, we're going to show you some of their creations, including a sweater, a hat, gloves. I recently told one of them that they could make money making those items. They're really impressive. We'll make sure that they model those for you when we make our video. Krista Lipniski runs our Earth Club. That's another large club that has to be split into 2 different meeting groups. They maintain our learning garden. Krista also partners with DuPage Farm Bureau, who comes in frequently to do workshops with the club on a variety of topics. Our club is also starring in a Farm Bureau promotion video coming out soon, and we've received 3 grants from the Farm Bureau to support the Earth Club activities. Lastly, our Growth Mindset Game Club is an innovation by ML teacher Amy Kovarik. We were able to start this club when Student Excellence Foundation awarded Amy a grant to purchase games and make her idea a reality. Amy reads the kids' books that teach lessons about perseverance and having a growth mindset. The kids play a variety of challenging puzzle-like games and then have reflective conversations about how they dealt with challenges and learned from their mistakes. So you'll hear more about all these great opportunities from the kids via video, but thank you so much for supporting these clubs and for supporting the work we do every day at Washington.
Thank you, Dr. Craig. What an inspiring presentation. I'm not kidding. It's so great to see the clubs and all the activities and how it's taken a large group of people to pull that off. Everyone contributed. It's just fantastic. So thank you. Board members, any modifications to the agenda tonight?
Can I ask for just one, if everybody be okay with one modification? I'd like to move the oral report in front of the facilities approval consent agenda. There's one item on that consent agenda that has to deal with the first phase of work, so I think it would make sense for you to hear the update tonight on the capital projects before we have you take that action.
Seems to make sense. Everybody aligned? Yep, okay, great. Any other changes? All right, we're skipping the...
We are.
Yep. And then there are no public comments tonight, so we're moving on to the superintendent's report at this time.
Great, thank you. Just a couple of things for you quickly. One, we skipped over the recognition and achievement. The community partner recognition that we had scheduled for tonight were 2 of our friends from the city of Wheaton that have been really good partners in a couple of different ways. They elected earlier today to come to our next meeting rather than come this evening, so we will recognize them at the Wheaton North meeting, which is in March. Couple of things, just to give you a quick update on. Number one, a delayed thank you. I shared this with the board in Friday notes, but I think since your last meeting, Jason and his team and a couple of our administrators from the high school led a really nice community education evening on AI. We spent a couple of hours really helping to educate the community, give them some resources, and really just bring some clarity on what AI is, what it's not, how it is that we're approaching the topic. And so cannot thank Jason, Lee, Caitlin, and our teams for really putting together a phenomenal night. I heard a lot of positive from those that attended. Two, I want to thank our student ambassadors aren't here tonight, but they joined us last month at our CAC meeting as we've been exploring the topic of technology, phone use, and just discussing some implications of potential adjustments to that policy. CAC had a number of questions for our students, and our ambassadors took all those questions, went out, solicited a lot of feedback from their classmates, did a phenomenal job at the CAC meeting. I know that's not going to come as a surprise to the board because you've interacted with them, but really amazing presence in front of a group of adults, and super proud of them. Three, just wanted to mention that a little bit earlier today, Brian and I had a chance to join our ratings call. So our credit rating is being reviewed in front of selling bonds. So we had that call today. We would expect sometime around the middle of next week to hear the results of that. But one, again, not going to come as a surprise to the board, but as you hear Dr. O'Keefe really tell the story of where this board and community have been in terms of our path toward building fiscal sustainability and just the efforts that are in place, all that you've done around facilities work, really impressive, and received some positive feedback. What will happen, I don't know, but the good news is that I heard only information that would suggest that we're in a solid place. So we'll see what happens on that. And then finally, just to thank you, Dr. Craig mentioned it under her report, but today was obviously our first remote learning day of the year. Again, we have that plan in place so that when we need it on a day like today, our teachers can do an amazing job of adapting. So thank you to the system. Shortly after we did make the call last evening, I saw our principals quickly mobilizing and moving information out to make sure that we were set up for that day. So Melissa, team, all of our principals and teams across the district, we know and will continue to say our preference is to have kids in our buildings when they can be in our buildings. So remote learning is not a replacement for the in-person opportunity, but it's a tremendous option, and our folks do a great job. So thank you to everybody for that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Schuler. We're on to the consent agenda. So I'm going to read the items. Acceptance of gift to Hawthorne Elementary School sale program. Acceptance of gifts from Longfellow Elementary School PTA. Acceptance of gift from Washington Elementary School PTA. Approval of middle school ELA instructional materials. Approval of professional learning expenditure request for board members. Approval to add serious safety hazard bus route Emerson Elementary School. Approval of bills payable and payroll. Approval of minutes January 8th, 2025. Regular meeting open January 22nd, 2025. Committee of the Whole open. And approval to destroy recordings of the closed sessions prior to September 2023 is allowable by law. Approval of personnel report to include employment, resignation, retirement, and leave of absence of administrative, certified, classified, and non-union staff. Board, are there any items that members want removed from the consent agenda? And okay, Dr. Schuler, any information?
Just three quick comments. Number one, three generous gifts. So again, thank you to our PTA partners that continue to provide really incredible support. Also just want to call out, I think Mr. Long had asked a question for clarification that there's a gift to Hawthorne Elementary School that's actually coming from one of our other PTA groups, and so again, really thankful to the Longfellow PTA as they look to support schools. They're not only supporting their own school community, but schools that have programs that support students from across the district, so incredibly nice. Two, there's the approval of a professional learning expenditure, so that is the opportunity for our board to attend your next regional meeting with the Illinois Association of School Boards. I want to thank and congratulate the board. We received notice that at that meeting you will be receiving a governance award. That's something that our board, every opportunity, has applied for and continues to be recognized for the work you do to lead our community. So one, congratulations. Rob and I both received that notice. You will be receiving that award at the upcoming meeting, and we wanted to make sure we recognize that for you and for the community. And then three, just a quick note that we put on display the ELA instructional materials. Thank you to Melissa Team Middle School for the continued work around our Focus for Learning Acceleration. That's been kind of a number one priority in our strategic plan, and so one more step forward in that.
Thank you. Board, any questions or comments? All right, hearing none. Board, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Paulson,
Second.
second by Ms. Kolovitz. Ms. Hutchison, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Ms. Kolovitz?
Yes.
Ms. Blattner?
Yes.
Mr. Gerby?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Rundle?
Yes.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes. All right, we're going to move into the adjusted portion. We're going to go to the oral report section, which was moved earlier. Dr. Schuler?
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce Mike Dolter, Carl Giametti from Perkins and Will. There are two of lead architects on the middle school capital project, have continued to do a really amazing job in moving and supporting our teams as we move forward. And Michael's going to bring you a design update tonight. Again, last little piece that I'll say and turn it over to him. There are a lot of elements to these. These are three really complicated building renovation, addition projects. And so what we're really trying to focus on in board updates are new elements that you haven't seen already that we've either brought clarity to or will kind of set up some of the action you're taking tonight. So, Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect introduction. Thank you, Dr. Schuler. Again, Mike Dolter, Senior Project Architect with Perkins and Will. With me tonight is Carl Giametti, another Senior Project Architect with Perkins and Will, who's been intimately involved in executing the projects and working with our teams, both within the district and within the office to bring these projects to fruition. So great to be here with you again tonight. As Dr. Schuler said, we hope to bring some additional clarity to items that we haven't previously presented to you, as well as some information out there that continues to develop. You know, you'll get an entree into some of the design elements that we'll bring back to you in the upcoming months as they continue to be developed, just to show that there is a progression in how we're moving forward and to show where we are and where we're going from that as well. So generally speaking, we're going to talk just to make sure we're always looking up at the schedule. We'll give an update on the schedule. Then we have a brief design update where we run through a number of different items in there, and then we will have a discussion here. Grade out the budget update. We just want to make sure that we're bucketing our presentations like we did pre-referendum into the schedule, design, and budget, and when those discussions happen with that, we'll bring that on board here, but that's not something we're talking about tonight. So just to give a recap, we talked about schedule last time we were here at the committee of the whole meeting. This hasn't really changed from that discussion. We are in design development with a majority of the project as it is right now. We are also in contract documents for work. That's part of issuance 1, which you will see a action item for later this evening about moving into public bids for that first issuance of work. That is, again, associated with the work at Monroe for classroom renovations, as well as enabling work over at Franklin and Monroe. So that is work that you'll see that will be going out to our construction manager next week, and then hopefully out to bid pending that board action today. So again, 3 issuance, main breakdown of this, same thing as we discussed previously. We have our summer 2025 work that's focused as that enabling work and classroom work. We have our issuance 2 work, which is the main building additions that will continue from the summer of 2025 through the summer of 2026. And then issuance 3, which has an overlap with issuance 2 in the summer of 2026 and 2027. And should it be necessary, we may be able to break that out if needed to extend it we don't anticipate that at this time. So the project timeline also is what you see, what you had seen previously. No changes to this to date. So all the issuances really stay forward. We want to make sure that we're hitting all the targets on this as much as possible moving forward. But we just talked about this with you at the last committee of the whole meeting, but we want to make sure we're constantly coming back to it so that you understand what the impacts are going to be on this. We are working with Nicholas, the construction manager, on the construction logistics discussions as well, and should have those available for future enlightenment for the schools, as well as bringing that to you at a later date also. Any questions on schedule? Okay, so we'll dive into a little bit of the design update here.
Sorry, I did have one question.
Oh, please go ahead.
Can you describe briefly just some of the activity that goes on during project closeout?
Closeout is we have a requirement in our contract documents for closeout documents, which includes making sure we have all of the warranty items completed. We go through, in construction, we go all the way through a stage which is called substantial completion, which means that the project is substantially complete enough that you can, as a board, as you and as a district, can take occupancy of that work. There are still closeout items that include punch list items, so items that need to be corrected or need to be completed, and anything else that comes to that happens during that time period. There are documents that need to be gathered from warranties or owner operation manuals and training that needs to be completed. That happens during that time. And it's the wrap up of the summer's work or the extended amount of work there. So it has a long period of time on there because there tends to be a lot of documents and there's a lot of back and forth with that. But it's almost always behind the scenes. On what
Yeah,
that
great,
is.
thank you.
Yeah. So from a design update standpoint, we have a few items to bring to you, and apologize if it feels a little disjointed, but we wanted to touch on a number of different things here tonight, just to give you a brief update on that. So one of the things that we had talked about at the last meeting was, and is specific to the upcoming issuance, is classrooms at Monroe. We are breaking that down into 2 major summers of work at Monroe, with work that will be coming out for this upcoming summer. And we're also looking at current work in 2 classrooms in Monroe to prototype out some classroom technology and furnishings in that space. So what that means is that the school has identified 2 classrooms that will serve as a prototype for instructional technology and furniture. So we have the opportunity and we've been working with vendors to bring in furniture to test out, to really get an idea of what's the best approach for technology at the current point, and what's the best approach for furnishings within those classrooms. What best supports teaching and learning in your classrooms as far as that's concerned. We're releasing the survey this week for students and staff faculty who are working in those 2 classrooms to provide some input on the current state of furniture within the classrooms, how it supports or hinders education and collaboration within the classroom, and we're going to use that as kind of the baseline. So next week we anticipate, all fingers crossed on weather and other challenges that might come forward, that those 2 classrooms will be fit out with the new furniture, have the teachers and students be able to live in that for a while. There's also some discussion of distributing that to other schools if that's a desire from those schools as well, just so that it's not just strictly a Monroe-focused study. After the students and teachers have lived in that for a while, we'll send another survey out, do a cross comparison between the pre-survey and the post to understand, are we meeting our goals? What are the best things that we can get from that? And what can we learn to improve this for rolling out to the larger community? So after that, we've made a decision on which direction we're going with overall furnishings as well as technology in those classrooms. We'll have another chance to test this out, where we'll do the same thing for the 30 classrooms that will be renovated as part of this summer's work at Monroe. So again, pre-survey we've already done as part of the master plan update. We'll do another little bit of a focus on that, just based on technology and furniture, based on the information that we get from this first phase here. Roll that out. Again, we'll have a good semester or two to really test that out, and then have some additional input, tweak the plan as necessary, and roll those out in the next subsequent summers as they come out as well. So that's kind of the approach on how we're doing prototyping. We want to make sure that any solutions that we're making on the technology, furnishings, fixtures, everything is really tested within your community and works best for the schools there. So we want to be deliberate about how we're approaching that.
Can I ask a question about
Please.
that? I'm just trying to understand in my head. So this work of the 2 classrooms and the 30 is going to be concurrent?
The 2 classrooms is going to happen this semester.
Oh, so that's going to be done.
Right.
Okay, so
The
those
goal.
decisions will flow into the 30 that are going to.
That's
Okay.
exactly
The goal
right.
is that those classrooms are done this weekend coming up.
Got it.
So
Okay.
we hope in the next week and a half to have those classrooms operational.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Another item from Monroe, and we briefly touched on this at our last time. So Monroe is a very dense school. I love the plan of Monroe. I say it a lot, but it's also been built onto several times, and in that case, it has created some. We're highlighted in red on here are classrooms that are buried. Those are classrooms that have no access to natural light. These are included in the issuance 1 documents that we're talking about that you'll see come up for action later this evening. We know that there's a benefit to natural light in the workplace as well as in the classroom. It improves concentration, engagement, performance, and overall well-being for both teachers and students. So we wanted to investigate how can we possibly reintroduce natural light in there, get some additional, not just the natural light, but is there opportunity for views and to really get the rhythm of students in sync with the nature surrounding them. So what is included in those documents are two approaches to daylighting within the classroom. And you can see here there's a light tube option and a skylight option. So the skylight is a single linear, so long rectangular option within the classroom that brings light in. We wanted to position these as close to the teaching wall as we can so that we have some impact on the overall classroom. Singular in each one of the classrooms, but it is a large impact. And then the light tube, it would be 4 of these pre-engineered light collectors, solar collectors within the classroom. So what they do is they take light, focus them down, reflect them in the space, and then diffuse them within the space itself. So some of the benefits, the light tube option is easier to work with the existing structure. It has a lower overall budget impact. You can put more than one in the space to allow for, diffusing that. It doesn't have the access to the views, and it has a smaller footprint overall. The skylight does have access to views and can allow for a larger diversity of color of lighting as well. There are some challenges with controllability from that, and there's some impact on the existing mechanical systems within those classrooms. We've tried to minimize that as much as possible by doing investigations above the ceilings as well as the documents to make sure that we're working within the existing structure, we're working in the existing mechanical systems in the building. But both of those are structured as an alternate bid. So should you decide to accept those as an alternate bid, you can do that, and those can be rolled right into those classrooms as they're being renovated. Any questions? Yes.
Have you done these in other places?
Yes, absolutely.
And
we've
what's the
done-
feedback been about
the solar tube or light tube options have been really well received in a multitude of different environments. From anything from, you see them in gymnasiums, very heavily used. We've used them in libraries and classrooms. Always very well received, just because they do bring in that natural light into those spaces, and they feel, the vibrancy that comes from that is really well received. So, and skylights are fairly well tested as well. So,
I was surprised a little bit on the skylights when I saw that it's off to the side, but then you said the teaching wall.
yeah. I mean, we are trying to focus that in a space that's going to be the most beneficial for the classroom, as well as the least impactful for the existing mechanical systems and structure within the space.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Question about
Please.
the light tube option. I'm just curious. So what is the material such that it doesn't allow a view?
Well, it's just because there's I'll go back here. There's on the bottom here, there's a kind of a diffuser on the bottom that's it's not like, you can't see through it, it's not glass.
Okay.
So what you get is you have a polycarbonate collector on the top, and then the tube is a mirrored tube. So the polycarbonate focuses the light into the space, and the mirror allows it to translate through there. But then you have somewhat of a translucent reflector on the bottom, so it doesn't allow you to see up through it.
Just a quick comment. I appreciate the study on the two options. I'm kind of more inclined to think about the light tube option than the skylight, only because my guess is we're not going to have a singular teaching wall. We might have, with technology and furniture,
Sure.
it's going to enable all walls to be teaching walls. So I guess conceptually maybe that doesn't serve the purpose.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and I think when we move away from a fronted classroom, it'll have less of an impact. But we saw some benefit to still having the ability to bring in the color of light to it as well. So we'll see what the cost benefit of it is once we get the bids back on it.
I'd be curious too, Brad, because I think, like if you have a single window in a classroom, it's only in one portion. I feel like if you have natural light, it doesn't really matter where it's coming from.
Sure.
I don't know. I would be interested in seeing actually like the difference in a classroom that has the light tube option, because I can't quite appreciate what it will feel like.
Okay.
There, just as so Michael sent us locations of a few places. Actually, one of the buildings that just put some of the solar tubes in is Clapham School. That's right downtown, where the old Tom's Price furniture building is. So Brian and I went and looked at those last week. They put them in a number of their classrooms. So we had a chance to see them and get a little bit of feedback directly from teachers in the classrooms, which they reported positively just on what it brings to the space in terms of light.
Any other questions at Monroe? Great. So we coming from some feedback from you last time here, we just wanted to do a quick study just to show a cross comparison for the Monroe Commons, because we had shared the idea of sort of the reduced footprint size of the Commons cafeteria at Monroe in order to relocate the locker rooms within that space. So went back, did the numbers, wanted to report back to you just so you could see what the comparison was between sizes of all four middle schools here. And you can see, the sizes all vary, as well as the student population sizes. The numbers in italics below there just tells you, this has been updated since the last time, since the document that you may have received here. So we did a study that showed, what is the square foot per student per lunch, since this is, there's at 3 lunch periods at each school, because this better aligns with some of the national standards. So national standards are somewhere between 15 and 25 square foot per student for a lunch period. And so you can see that all your schools fall well within that. And the revised footprint of the cafeteria at Monroe, actually shown right here, does not include the corridors on here. So this is additional open space on 3 sides that's just open to the cafeteria here. So there's additional relief space in there So there is a good comparative between the Hubble and the Monroe cafeteria once that renovation is completed. So we just wanted to show that as a comparison to answer some questions there, as well as to provide the information. This is directly from each school's principal, just to see, current numbers. What are the current available lockers at each grade level? How are those used, and what the percentage of utilization is? It varies obviously at each one of the schools, but you can see that the highest use percentage per grade is up at 78%. The lowest is down at 32%. So the real bottom line of this is that we feel that there's a good opportunity to regain some additional space for, if it's small group use, or if it's other uses within the hallways, to activate those, or to make use of those for educational purposes. We want to make sure that we study that, while also understanding that there's a need for a fluctuating population at each one of these schools. So what can we do to address that, and then also provide for some additional variety of space within the building?
I have a question on this chart. I'm wondering if you can clarify something for me.
Sure.
At Monroe, I know currently there are those lockers in the cafeteria space. So does the proposal include eliminating them? And if so, what would be the impact on this chart?
Yeah, the proposal does include recommending to eliminate the locker banks that are currently in the cafeteria. We feel that, and we have talked with the staff faculty at Monroe, who also feels that there's a sightline challenge that gets created with those. They are a supervision issue as well, and as a security issue within the building. Nothing has presented itself as a challenge right now, but just thinking about it as a whole, holistically here, if we can get rid of those and have some additional open space, it's better for the building. We're running through scenarios. We've developed a scenario that we can use if there's a selected addition or relocation of lockers within the right side, which is the classroom area, the east side of the commons. That's where the 6th grade and 8th grade lockers are cohorted right now. This would be swinging the 7th grade into those areas. We have a few different options that we're going to be working with the school on to see what is the most appealing for that, and just investigating that overall as well. So we're in the process of figuring that out, but the numbers we have show that there's the ability for us to do that. It just may not be as clear cut of a cohorting as it is right now.
How many lockers are in the commons at Monroe?
It's all the 7th grade lockers are in the commons right now. So 8th grade has their locker commons on the south east side of the building. The 6th grade has a locker right by the 6th grade wing, which is up on the northeast corner of the building, and the 7th grade is in the central common space.
A little comment off topic, but since we're in commons, Franklin, one of my favorite or least favorite spaces in the district is the commons at Franklin lower level. Just a little encouragement to give us some special attention to that space from a furniture and finishes and lighting standpoint, to not
Sure.
make it feel like a basement.
Sure, yeah, and I think the other thing that we're looking at both at Edison and Franklin is activating some additional open spaces within the building. If you remember the plan at Franklin, we've developed some relief space in corridors on both the first floor and second floor, over by the pre-function space for the gymnasium and what is now exploratory lab area, and then up in the science area there, some open spaces that help that out, so that it's not all just tight planning there. At Edison, there's already a nice common space that's located outside the cafeteria there too, so we want to see how we can activate that as well, as utilizing that. But right to your point, how can we best improve the cafeteria there? We'll certainly take a look at that as well. Move on. So this is our first entree into real bona fide architectural design. We have been studying opportunities for improvements at the building entries at all three schools to see, to put a deliberate and improved entryway to make these more inviting, more reflective of the communities that they serve. And we just wanted to preview with these with you today. We're continuing to work with the principals and schools on these, so you'll see some evolution of these over time. But these are where they sit right now and what was in our schematic design package. So this is the entryway to Edison. The picture also belies sort of the tightness of the site here, because behind here is almost immediately is a row of trees that separates some residential property just immediately to the north of this space. So it's a very formal entry. You see the block that says Edison Middle School. That whole building bar above there was a building addition that was made at a later date after construction here. So the elevated piece entirely was a building addition. So it changed the character of the building completely when that was created. One of the things that we noticed here is that really the approach to the building for most people who are coming here, vehicular, bus, most of the traffic, is really coming from the west. So how can we make that, which is just a blank wall of masonry right now, how can we improve that? How can we lighten up this piece that sits over the top of the building entry? What can we do to make this a more inviting and softer presence? So this is a kind of a head-on view of that, what we're proposing currently, and again, this continues to evolve, but the idea is to wrap windows around that west side, lighten up the overall piece there, introduce more natural light into the LLC, which is on that second floor there, try to find a way to lighten up the underneath to that plaza that's underneath there, through changing materials, introducing additional lighting there, and then finding a way to address some underutilized site furnishings there, as well as an accessible path under there as well. So the idea here again is to really to refresh this and make it much more inviting and obvious for those who are coming to the school building for the first time, or continue to come here as well. At Franklin, one of the challenges that we have, and one of the challenges that we're immediately trying to address in other portions of the building is accessibility, as well as identity and your security practices and some of the aging conditions at this area here. So the main entrance to Franklin shown here is on the south side of the building. This is not an accessible entrance. The only accessible entrance to the building right now is on the east side of the building. That accessible entryway will be demolished as part of this second issuance work that will start this summer. We're addressing that immediately by adding a ramp to the north entrance to the building, so that we continue to have an accessible entry, and that will be a permanent accessible entry on the north side of the building. The idea here would be to find a way to do that on the south side. And the challenge that we can't immediately address that with is because once you enter into door number 1 here, if you've been to the building, you're presented with a flight of stairs. So there's no way to get up to the main, what is considered to be the main level from here if you're mobility challenged, as it is right now. So 2 of the challenges are really getting up to that main entrance door, and then from that entrance door into the building, and how can we address that? And so what you can see here is we've integrated into the planning 2 ramps that flank the main entry stair here, so you can proceed into, if you're coming here by wheelchair or need to use a ramp, you don't have to come around to one side or the other. You're really coming to the same position as you would be if you're going up the stairs. Enter into the entryway. There's an elevator that will take you up to that main level, and that's again right alongside of anybody who's going up the stairs. So it's not a different experience for you if you're coming into the building and are mobility challenged. And then that whole entryway area is secured, so that you're as you've seen, the relocated main office would be off to the left, to the west here, but you're in a secured entry vestibule as you work your way up to this first level there. Yes. they currently are exposed, but it has been suggested that we take a look at some opportunities to add some canopy over these, or some other way to do that, and we think that's certainly a good idea that we can continue to explore too, and find a way to integrate that into the current landscape around the space as well. It's actually an elevator. So this is actually a limited use, limited applicability elevator. So it just means it's a normal cab elevator that will take you up from the entry level all the way to the first level. Has a door on both sides. You can operate it yourself. It just means the designation just means you can't use it 100 times a day. You can use it. The number of visitors that you have that will use it is going to be certainly good enough for what you have there. Yes, absolutely. Yep. And at Monroe, we've heard, this goes way back to our discussions with Monroe. Has always been the discussion of the dated view of the exterior, as well as some of the challenges with the way that entry has been repositioned at Monroe. If you right now there are two entries that you can't see here, but the main entryway is really right here. There's a second entry off to the right that has a sort of equal presence as the other entrance. So there's a challenge for, if you're a visitor, how do you recognize what the actual main entryway is to the building? So those things, as well as is really have been a driver to try to develop a hierarchy to the entryway. And then to adding some additional clarity to the wayfinding and to the building identity as well. And so the revised plan here, and this again continues to develop as we move forward here, really tries to use landscaping as well as architectural elements to point individuals to this main entryway here, and then soften the presence of the entryway off to the east. We've done our health, life, safety study on here to make sure that we can eliminate a pair of doors on this entryway here. So again, we're trying to downplay this as much as possible. That allows us actually to solve another issue, which was student movement from the 8th grade locker commons over here into the main commons, which is a challenge right now because what they do is they enter out, take a hard left turn out of the commons into the vestibule, and then right back into the building. It presents not only a bottleneck issue, but a potential piggybacking issue in the building. And we think we can solve that by really eliminating any interaction between students as they're moving through here and an outside door. Preference is pushed towards the main entry vestibule here. It's a large entry vestibule, currently as well. They are using it for waiting purposes right now, which can be a bit problematic in how flow is moving through there. That may provide some security challenges to there. So if there's a way to get visitors out of there into the building without into commingling in the building, the initial plan was really to use that in the main office off to the left and to the west side of the vestibule. But after talking with the student, staff, faculty, and administration in the building, the preference was to find a way to separate out student and staff faculty who are using the main office from visitors who would come to it. So this, if you remember and we talked a little bit about this last time, the current auditorium off to the right here was sort of targeted as a multi-purpose room. The idea here is to find a way to make this into the more public-facing entry into the building. So there's a place for a large gathering space. The teachers' lounge is in here. There can be some touchdown office spaces or some other meeting spaces in here. But if you're coming to this space as a member of the public or an outside visitor, come into the vestibule into the right, and you're contained within the building without without being released into the general population and without mixing with students and staff in the building. So from an architectural standpoint, we're also trying to, again, add some hierarchy to the building, and this is an initial concept. So the idea was to try to remove the current The current roof piece that runs all the way across and is kind of the defining portion of piece to Monroe Middle School. Find a way to remove that as much as we can from that entryway piece to modernize it. Also to really reestablish that height of that current auditorium volume here, and then add a higher volume that really signals out entry. So this canopy piece here is brought up and brought out, and then using landscaping to again direct into that entryway, and then have identity that's cohesive with that landscaping, as you can see along the side, along this seating area here. Again, this may end up being a cast piece into the concrete or stone at a later date. We know kids and low height letters make for challenges, so we recognize that right now. And but the idea again is identity piece that draws you into that entryway, hierarchy that's developed that really tells you that that's the entryway into the building. So that's the building entryways, and we'll certainly dive deeper into these as we continue to develop them. But any comments, questions about that portion?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit. First off, Edison entrance is right up there on my list with Franklin Commons, my least favorite spaces, and what you've done with it is awesome. I love the natural light is going to kind of start to reflect what's going on inside the building. Lighten it up a little bit. I love the kind of the masonry detailing. It looks like you've designed in the stone sill maybe below the windows, so it's great. I think it's fantastic. As you mentioned, kind of reworking, softening up that space underneath. It's a little overbearing right now.
Yeah.
A little hard. That's great. We kind of talked about Franklin and the idea of trying to explore if there's a way to build a kind of an independent structure that serves as a canopy, as John mentioned. That would be an interesting function that I think Franklin would be the only one that doesn't have a covered entrance. At the middle school level, and I agree with you on Monroe, I think it's a great idea. Little tweaking is still to do, make sure that canopy is as functional as possible, but kind of modernizing and kind of making sure we clear to the public what that entrance is. I think it's a good first step, and I think we kind of talked last week or last meeting about the multi-purpose room being repurposed for kind of the administrative function. I think that's a good evolution of the design process. That one of those first diagrams talks about the steps of the design process. Excuse me. And this is an example of what happens. You start with an idea, and then as you go through and refine and continue conversations with the staff, the design solution gets better. So I think kind of the reworking of those more public spaces is,
Sure.
is positive.
Great.
That's my opinion as an architect, serving as a board member.
One question. On Franklin, any thought to, in addition to the elevator, a ramp? Right, because like everybody that comes up the ramp may not be using the elevator, and I don't know if it's even practical. I was just curious. Like if somebody's maybe has a walker, I mean, maybe they still use the elevator, but is there any benefit to having a small ramp on the side of the stairs?
The study that we've done on there is that's a really, really long ramp.
Okay.
Because we have about 10 feet difference between the grade entryway and the second floor, and the code would require about 100-foot ramp in order to do that. So it gets a little bit laborious to do so. Yeah,
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
To the extent you're still doing schematics and kind of experimenting a little bit, how does the timing work out before you have to go to working drawings and bidding? Here we are in February of 2025, and I'm wondering if there's adequate time to finalize the things that you're working on here.
Yeah, we have we basically have the rest of the year to finalize the issuance 3 work, which is all the interior renovations. The first issuance work, we're again going out to release those documents pending board approval. next week. Then in the May-June timeline, you'll see action come for the building additions. So we're quickly approaching the point of no return with that project, but we're continuing to work with users and administration to try to nail down all the open items there. We're running fast, but we want to make sure that we're being as participatory as possible.
2 questions.
Yeah.
So in Monroe, you discussed the waiting area for the public. Do
Yes.
the other middle schools have a similar area?
Yes, at Edison, we're building the same basic. It's a little bit different because we do have a larger conference room that will be built as part of the renovations. That's immediately off the entryway. And at Franklin, we have a completely reimagined entryway to that. The good thing there is that there's no mixing of outside and inside because the student services entryway and nurses entryway is completely separate from the main entryway off the entry vestibule into the office at Edison. I'm sorry, at Franklin. So those are the things that we're looking at. I think the ideas that came from this are something that we'll discuss with the other principals. We have just developed this plan, and if there's lessons to learn with the other 2 schools, we'll certainly bring those too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the last basic question. It looks like, so are all 3 schools getting all new windows?
The plan is that a baseline will be new windows for sure at Edison. We're doing investigations on Monday on the condition of the windows at Monroe and Franklin to understand where those are. We're planning on including those as projects in the documents, or window replacements at both Monroe and Franklin. They just may be structured as alternates, and by doing that, it allows you as a board an opportunity to have some cost control over the project and determine which direction you want to go with that.
Thank you.
Yep. Last thing, the most exciting thing, building systems. We always love talking about HVAC, so we'll end on a high note. So the most important thing here has been, the investigation of indoor air quality, indoor environmental quality here, to make sure that, everything we're doing really is supporting the education as well as the health and well-being of students, staff, and faculty at the schools. Because we believe that those are huge important things to performance as well as just the overall well-being of students, and wellness is a major component in what we're doing overall in the projects. So just as a brief, I won't dive too deep into this, but existing conditions at each school, you have at Franklin and Edison. Those have aged central plant systems, so heating and cooling and ventilating systems. They are served by individual cabinet unit heaters at each classrooms. Monroe is different. Monroe has a central air distribution system that uses a VAV, or variable air volume distribution. So it uses air circulation coming from the outside to deliver energy into the space. Franklin and Edison each classroom has their own box that delivers conditioned air into the space, and you'll see what that means here a little bit. So this is an outside view at Edison. You can see all the louvers in this picture. There's about 6 of them here. Each one of these is tied into one of those boxes in that. So some of the challenges that you can see right away are the louvers are located close to the ground. Franklin has the same thing where they're actually in a well underneath the grade level, and then each one provides variability in quality and quantity of ventilation over time. And here's a classroom at Franklin, and this is one of the lower level classrooms at Franklin that you can see what that box is. And those boxes are pretty large. They take up a good amount of footprint in the classroom. So if we can get rid of those, we've automatically gained space in the classroom. Also, they're rather noisy. So if you have somebody who has, as you're a younger person, you're not always picking up every single word, and being able to fill those in isn't as easy. So if you're sitting next to one of these, you may have a diminished ability to really be cognizant of what's being instructed in the class. And they also don't really evenly distribute fresh air or conditioned air within the space. As you can imagine, they're a point source of air distribution within the space. So it's really either cold or hot near them and less so away from those. So we want to move away from those as much as possible. And the way that we're approaching that at Franklin and Edison, where it's a whole system replacement, is using a system that is composed of two different elements. So we have heating and cooling over on one side, and we have ventilating on the other. What that allows us to do is, since we're not using air as our energy distribution system, we can reduce the size of the ductwork that we have into the space. So we're bringing energy in using water piping instead of using air. So we have higher efficiency in how we're bringing a distribution of energy within the building. And then we have the ability to bring in direct outside air, which means that we're exhausting the entire room in a much more rapid rate. So, carbon dioxide isn't building up within the space. Not that you have a problem with that now, but this is an improvement to what you're working on now. So the proposed improvements at Edison and at Franklin are remove the cabinet unit heaters. Those boxes would go away. We'd replace the central systems, the boilers, chillers, and other components that tied into that. And then we'd serve the classrooms with that DOAS, direct outside air system, and 4-pipe fan coil system. And we'll explain what that means here in a little second. Monroe, again, because the evaluation said your end distribution system is really in good shape, has some longevity to it, and we can go and we can replace the central systems and keep those intact. So we can tie into those using the new boilers, new chillers, get some more efficiency built into it that way, not have to dive into the terminal air units, the VAV boxes, the user side distribution components. That allows us really to, that was one of the key drivers that said, hey, we can start renovating these right now. So by not having to go through the full system replacement, we can tackle those starting this summer for those. And we're extending air conditioning to non-air conditioned spaces at Monroe. So the main gymnasium, other gyms that are currently not air conditioned, we're going to be air conditioned at the end of the day, so we'll have full coverage within those buildings too. So just as a primer, you'll get your diploma after this on mechanical engineering. The DOAS and 4-pipe fan coil system. DOAS is dedicated outdoor air unit. It takes 100% outdoor air. It tempers it. It doesn't fully heat it or fully cool it. It delivers it at a room neutral temperature to your classroom. So you're bringing in filtered and tempered air into your classroom and exhausting the old air, taking the energy out of that old air and reusing it for the incoming air. So we're being as efficient as possible. But the real benefit is that we're increasing your efficiency and your indoor air, environmental air quality within the classrooms by being able to exchange with 100% fresh air on a regular basis. The 4-pipe fan coil, that's the heating or air conditioning component. And by using it as a 4-pipe, we're saying that we're able to connect to both your boiler and your chiller at any given time, so you can heat or cool at any given time. So the diversity is there because if you have a building that has a east face and a west face, you may be 30 degrees outside, but that west face has just been in the sunlight baking, and you need cooling in there. So you have the ability to do that. You can really, kind of flatten out the temperature within the building, and so there's a more consistency there. And consistency is your friend when it comes to education here. So you don't have students who are in a variety of different environmental conditions, and that affects how they would be learning. So the air comes into the space at a room neutral temperature, is brought into that fan coil unit, either from being recirculated or from the classroom space or directly, and then is conditioned down to the temperature that's desired. Again, the decoupling of how we're delivering energy to those classrooms really reduces the amount space that's used for ducts, so we can get higher ceilings, and also reduces the energy that's expended in heating or cooling those spaces overall. So that is the quickest you can go for that. So yes,
The mechanical system that you're talking about still fits within our budget.
yes, it does. Yep, it's accounted for in the budget as it sits right now.
And for the boiler, is that always available, or is that like, started up in October, or?
We're not talking about fire tube boilers anymore
Okay.
that require the big startup and then the cleaning off season and then you bring it down. These are a high efficiency. They're basically the size of a refrigerator, and you have multiple of them so that there's diversity and there's redundancy built into the system automatically. And they can be used. You can use a whole bank of them, or you can use one of them depending on what the demand is for that.
So there's flexibility. If we
Absolutely.
had a cold September, you could, yeah.
That's
all
right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you don't have to wait until October 1st
Yeah.
to get cool.
I mean, I've been in buildings where.
Yeah, absolutely,
You
yeah.
gotta wait till whatever date
Right,
to
right.
get warm.
So, any questions, comments?
The DOAS system.
Yes.
So that's not what we currently have at Jefferson.
I'm not familiar with the Jefferson system.
No, Jefferson, we're using, it's a geothermal system, so it's an
right, okay.
alternate energy well system.
All right.
Just
Oh,
one
I guess
comment
not.
all the way back to the beginning, just kind of talk about these three issuance. I just wanted to assure the board that that's a very normal practice, especially on these complex phased school projects. We can't just vacate the school and do all the work within one big project. So the idea of really issuance number 2 is critical to set up issuance number 3. So in other words, we have to construct those additions so that we can reoccupy those additions, the theater, the music band, et cetera, for the August of 2026 school year, so that we can go back into the school the following summer and repurpose those existing spaces into something new. Actually, we probably might start that during the summer
Yeah,
of 20.
summer 26, we're going to be repurposing those spaces so that when the new building additions come online, you'll have all the dominoes that backfill that all in line too.
So I guess my point is this is a very normal process. And Perkins, Will, and Nicholas will be working very closely together and with the schools to phase and sequence this work and doing additions while school is going on is not uncommon. It's very typical. So the construction manager will work with the school. They'll manage safety. They'll manage deliveries. It's not something we should be concerned about. It's excuse me, it's done all the time.
Thank you, Brad. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, board, now we're going to move on to the facilities approval consent agenda portion. There are 3 items on there. Approval of ROE building permits for 2025 summer architectural capital projects. Approval of ROE building permits for 2025 summer mechanical capital projects. And approval to release middle school capital project bids, project issuance 1. Board, are there any items you want removed from the facilities approval consent agenda? Hearing none, Dr. Schuler, any additional information?
I think you got a pretty thorough overview.
More on DOAS?
Yeah.
Okay. Board, any questions?
Yeah, my only question really is the timing of when we would be approving budgets, approving bids in March, and the kind of a receipt of the first cost estimate update. I think it's going to be important. I'm sure this is part of the process, but it's important for the board to know where we are in terms of the overall budget before we award bids for this first issuance, but also kind of what the anticipated budget is for that first issuance as well. So
Sure.
I know that our team's working with Nicholas to sequence that work. I just wanted to kind of reinforce. I think the board's going to want to see that come March.
Understood. I think you'll have it before March.
Any other questions, board? All right, hearing none, I need a motion and a second to approve the facilities approval consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Paulson.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rutledge. Ms. Hutchison, will you please call the roll?
Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Ms. Blattner?
Yes.
Mr. Durkee?
Yes.
Ms. Cullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Hamlin?
Yes. I'm still trying to get over Ms. Blattner's vote. That was the best vote ever. We have no action items tonight on the agenda, so we're going on to the board committee reports. So our facilities committee met on January 15th, and the meeting notes were attached. But Mr. Paulson, any additional comments?
Yeah, I think the second item there is something we've talked about at the facility committee meeting, and I think as we look forward to the capital work, the Sherman Durgis work for 2026 and 2027, it may make sense to take a little bit more focused approach on that future work. You know, historically we've tried to touch many, many schools, and with everything going on and the focus our staff's going to have, it might take, we might want to strategically plan a little bit of work on less sites and more concentrated work at a few schools. And so that's something that I think we want to build into the future years work, 26 and 27. And I think we've also discussed the idea that now is kind of a great opportunity to take a step back and put in place a new updated capital plan for the high schools and the elementary schools, kind of reassess, reprioritize where we are and what the focus should be for the next 5 to 10 years. So just kind of, you know, putting that as a future discussion of the board. You know, we're going to be so focused on middle schools, but we still have the opportunity to continue the Sherman Durgis work at the other schools. So we've come a long way. Now we get that chance to kind of recalibrate where we go in the future. So that was what we kind of discussed at the facility committee meeting.
All right, thank you. And our finance committee met on January 16th. Mr. Long, any additional comments?
No, I mean, what we covered was, I think all of them were covered in our last committee of the whole. The 5-year forecast
Yep.
was the debt issuance and the amended budget timeline for F-25. So I think no really updates beyond that.
Thank you. And our HR policy committee met on January 10th. Ms. Kolovitz, any additional information?
Yes, we also met on February 7th. So
Oh, I saw that,
just
sorry.
wanted to highlight that as well. At both meetings, we talked about primarily two topics: the CAC bylaws, and then also the cell phone policy and the process for that. So just to touch on the first topic of the CAC bylaws, those are in the bylaws supposed to be reviewed every 3 years. So they were last amended in 2023. So in 2026. We would be coming up on that. At our most recent meeting in February, we did have the chair and the vice chair of that committee attend our meeting. That was a very helpful and productive conversation. One of the topics we talked about was we've had the fortunate problem the past few years of having more applicants than spots, and working through some options of how to do that. So the next step in that process is that they're going to reconvene their bylaws committee to talk through some of those concepts. And then we also discuss the process, which has been revised the past few years, of how those applications are reviewed. In terms of the cell phone policy, the process for that is we're getting feedback from teachers. Our student ambassadors got feedback from their fellow students, and then also the CAC discussed it last meeting and upcoming as well, and then it'll be presented to us for discussion.
All right, thank you. Any other reports from board members tonight? Mr. Rutledge.
I had the opportunity to attend gym night and a PTA meeting over at Hawthorne. And at North, I attended Silent Sky, and the lead on that was our own Abby Williams, one of our ambassadors.
Nice.
It was a great show.
Thank you for sharing. Any other reports?
Two quick things. Several of us attended the Student Excellence Foundation fundraiser last Saturday night, so it was a successful fundraiser. There's a Bowl for the Torch next Saturday. I believe it's the 22nd, and it's a fundraiser for the Special Olympics, the CUSD Special Olympics. So, you know, I know they're looking for some more participants. So for both for anybody here and listening, if you're interested in signing up, please do. And one other thing, we need. I was looking today. We don't have anybody assigned yet for next week for the CAC. There were 3 of us as alternates.
Yeah.
So never mind. I didn't know if I should bring it up now, but I would forget.
That's fine. That's fine.
You were one of the 3. So thank you.
Very good. All right. topics for, we have 4 written reports that are attached to the agenda online. Our monthly financial reports, our FOIA report, our board communication log, and our Citizens Advisory Committee log. We have 1 topic for future discussion, which are the middle school capital projects. Board, are there any additional topics that you want considered for future discussion?
I have 2.
Great.
One may just need to come back to the HR policy committee. If we could get an update on how the new staff to student messaging system, I think it's called Rooms, is been going this year after its first year of implementation, that'd be great. And then the second one was actually an idea that came from teachers and community members. Something to consider, maybe this isn't a topic for, the possibility of having middle school hall supervisors, as we do at the high school, outside of bathrooms where things tend to occur.
Okay. Any other topics, board? So if you remember, they go into a log that we keep and maintain in a more organized way than we have historically. And
It's been really nice.
what?
It's been nice. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, our next board regular meeting will be on March 12th at Wheaton North High School. And then our next committee of the whole will be on February 26th at the School Service Center. We will be moving to closed session tonight, so board, I need a motion and a second to adjourn to closed session pursuant to the Illinois Open Meetings Act exemption 5 ILCS 120/2 Part C Part 2 and 5 ILCS 120/2 Part C Part 10.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Kulovitz, second
Second.
by Ms. Blattner. Ms. Hutchison, will you please call the roll?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes, so our meeting is adjourned to closed session. Action is expected following the closed session. Thank you.